Hi, I'm Leonson Lewis, former Trinidad and Tobago national football player, and you're watching Field of Dreams on Axe Television Network.
Okay, welcome viewers. We have come to another edition of Field of Dreams. My name is Steve David, your host, and this is Axe Television Network. Today we talk football, and we talk football only at this on this station, not on this station, on this program. And today we want to talk football, but we want to talk Hall of Fame. And I have a panel, a Hall of Fame panel. Future Hall of Famers, and I would introduce them all, and then we would get into our discussion. So let me take time first to introduce my panel, my Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame panel. All the way down to the end, to my right, and that's Alvin Henderson, future Hall of Famer, right, Alvin?
Not at all. I don't think I'm anywhere near being a Hall of Fame person. I could tell you a lot about the people who should be there, but I don't see myself being in a Trinidad Hall of Fame. I'm in Hall of Fames elsewhere where I played.
Well, and since we started playing since back in the college days, I see you as a Hall of Famer, and I still do. And I hope one day you would be enshrined in this Hall of Fame. And next to Alvin is Leonson Lewis, and another one of my favorite, and that I always look at. And Leon, I think you should be also a Hall of Famer. What do you think?
Well, I think that you should be the one who
Selecting
all the Hall of Famers because I don't really think I of that status. Unlike Doc, I think I'm in the Hall of Fame in Naprima College.
Right.
But other than that, I probably know about a lot of Hall of Famers that should be in Hall of Fame around my era. But to say that I am a Hall of Famer, I don't know. I wouldn't go as that far.
You're just modest, man, but I hear you. And we talk because you know your talent and you know your ability, man. And to my left, I've got Narada Wilson, and Narada is a Hall of Fame journalist, not journalist, I should say, scout, whatever. You tell him what your Hall of Fame
Right,
was.
well, I don't know if I'll be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not trying to be modest, but I think I'm probably one of the first down that line. So if they want to give me Hall of Fame based on being a trendsetter or the first, fair enough. But I know there's a lot of work still to be done. And it's very important to me being here in the presence of true Hall of Famers in the sport of football and hoping to see what we could come up with as future people to be in the Hall of Fame.
Good. I'm going to set the table because the reason I wanted to do this show is so the viewers know how the system is set up to get into the Hall of Fame. Maybe why some of you guys are not in, and what happened recently that I want the viewers to know, and I want the viewers to have an input into what I want them to do is really to go onto the Facebook and comment on our Facebook and comment on this player I'm going to talk about, Warren Archibald, who was just nominated to be in the Hall of Fame and got rejected. And that is, I'm talking about the Warren Archibald, viewers. Yes, Warren Archibald, who you hear about, who's a household name with everybody. In every kitchen, you hear the name Warren Archibald. A whole country, Haiti, has kids running around named Archibald because of what he did over there and all of that. And now our own selection committee rejected Warren Archibald from this Hall of Fame process, and I can't understand it. So I want us to talk about that panel, and I'm setting the table so we can have an open barbershop discussion as we go, so I don't have to throw those questions to you guys. But the format is they have subcommittees from each discipline that select the players, but you have to nominate a player. Elsewhere in the world is the media or the players who is enshrined in the Hall of Fame already is who normally vote on the players. After 5 years you retire, you can be
Nominated.
you can not be elected, but you meet the requirement to be selected as a Hall of Famer. Ours is a little different, or somebody has to nominate you. I personally nominated Warren Archibald. So I am very hurt about that, and he's the guy who taught me everything I know, all the tricks of the trade. So I feel real hurt that he's not in the Hall of Fame. So I thought we'd bring this to our viewers. And then after your subgroup is approve you and submit you as one of their representatives, then the First Citizen group who selects the Hall of Fame, Hall of Famers, they now in turn rejected Warren Archibald. So guys,
Steve,
stay there.
I would start off in saying that we as a panel here really don't know the full criteria by which the Hall of Fame people are selected. Are they selected only on international games that they have played for the country, or are they selected because of a combination of the fact, for instance, Alvin Cornell is a Hall of Famer that I know of. Is he selected only on the fact that he played outstanding football for Trinidad and the West Indies, or was he also selected because he also was a coach and he selected as a dual on a dual basis? For instance, Warren Archibald, there's no question in my mind that he was one of the outstanding players of the 60s, especially late 60s, and was on the national team easily for 10 years or more, but may not have played a large number of games as the players of today play because there weren't a large number of tournaments played. And in addition, Warren Archibald, since 1967, and he played 9 years or 10 years in the US playing professionally. So he was not a player who could easily have come back to play on every game for the national team, because in those days, coming back home often was not something that people did. So he may have played many less games for the national team, and maybe that was a criteria that the selectors based it on.
Well, the reason why I don't think so is Warren played more games than I did for the national team. I mean, we played together, but he played before me. And when I stopped playing for the national team, it was about the same time he stopped playing for the national team. And he was in the team way before I was. So he obviously had played more games than I did. So I think it's just whatever you brought to the game and is what they judge you on. Whether it was national football, local football, or international football. So,
well, I think we should really find out, as Doc said, what is the criteria, because since I'm small to now, there are certain names stand out in Trinidad football, Leroy DeLeon and Warren Archibald. I think of the era that passed was definitely two names that people always spoke about. They said the most talented players ever. If, for example, you think about 2 players or 3 players that play for Trinidad, you think about Trinidad football on the whole, what has passed and present, you think Warren Archibald, Leroy DeLeon, and probably Dwight York. And Russell Atterpee will come in that same group. Right. So for a name like that to be rejected off of a legendary list or a Hall of Fame list, after those 2, then there's nobody else that you can put in the Hall of Fame again.
Well, I don't think it could be based on his talent. His talent was obvious. I felt direct brunt of his talent in my first game in the college league, first days in the college league. My first game against Archibald, we were at the end of a 9-0 licking from St. Benedict's. And I could tell you, Warren Archibald's name was ringing in my ears for the whole evening afterwards, and for many weeks after. And in addition, I could tell you a little bit about Archie in that he was a hero of mine growing up, because I thought he could do many things on a football field, not only be a goal scorer, he was a creator of goals, he was very quick, he could play both inside forward and he could play outside as well. In addition, he was smarter than most. and as a result, very early on, he made the national team as a schoolboy. He went on to professional football. As Steve said, the Haitians love him because on 2 occasions, he was the darling of the Haitian public. In 1967, CONCACAF tournament was played in Haiti, and Warren Archibald was the key figure in that tournament. And then he went back there in the 73 team, and again everybody was singing his name still. So Archibald, as I said, I don't think it was based on talent. I don't think it was based on the player that he was. Maybe there were some other factors, probably, and I'm looking at possibly the number of games played, but you have refuted that by saying you have played less. But as I said, your history in the professional league is perhaps a little more, in the States, is perhaps a little more, flowery and whatnot. And Archie was MVP of the NASL in 1973, and he was a leading player with all the clubs that he played with. But I don't think he had your goal scoring record, Steve, in the NASL.
I think, Narada, come in on
my thing
some
would
of the
be
comments.
that, one, the criteria, I also believe regardless of what the criteria is, it has to be about mass population, and if the person had some sort of impact, maybe in another country by extension. I think being the top in your country is one thing,
Exactly.
but going overseas, it says something as well. I may not have been fortunate to see Archibald playing, but I could tell you I went to San Fernando Boys RC, and at the point in time in primary school, everybody wanted to go to Benedict's to play. Right? Now, I went to school in Port of Spain, I went Trinity, but at Benedict's, from my cousins that went there, that was a name you always heard. So you're already seeing right there in the local community that he's a hero. Starting to work into football and following Trinidad football, I even sat down on a panel discussion with you guys about the top strikers, the top midfielders and all of that. Again, something that was unanimous amongst everyone is Warren Archibald on the national team level. I had the privilege of a few months ago being contracted by one of the Haitian teams to play that was playing in the CONCACAF Champions League, right? They contracted our company to do some translation and work with them. And the management team, the first thing they spoke when they came and they landed was Warren Archibald. That was the only name that they wanted to see everything that he probably passed through in Trinidad, because whatever impact he has over there. So I am at a point where there's somebody that has an impact in Haiti, the US, and in Trinidad. And by extension, it could have been to other places, and he's missing out. Now, the names that probably went on the list, the other names, no discredit to them, but if I look at mass belief and what the common, if I have to say the common folk, or, what is public knowledge,
Exactly.
are these people able to impact more than he did? Because what I think a criteria has to be, if I am hearing about 3 generations sitting here speaking the same name, it says something. It means this guy is going to go down in history for a very long time. So how could somebody that is considered probably one of the best footballers, most prolific footballer, not be in our Hall of Fame as yet? That should be probably one of the first names if football is, by extension, the most popular sport in the country.
And I should think it should have some, the era you're playing should at least have something to do with it, because is Latapi or York in the Hall of Fame as well? They're not in.
They're going to be voted in.
They're going to be voted in now.
We're all talking about this now because there's going to be an induction into the Hall of Fame of some new inductees within the next few weeks.
Right.
And Latapi and York are two
Part
of
of that,
the
yes.
prominent names on that list.
There you go. So I don't think that. I think the fellas who played before of the past era, they should be. It should have a way to do that. It should have a trickle down. It should be Steve David.
Start from them coming up.
And then they come down because they can't go to Latapia, New York, and then they want to go back to Archibald, and then you jump forward to whoever.
I know in the States, in the NFL in the States, what may happen, and in baseball, etc., they may go, some people may make it on the first ballot, as they say. They may be voted in as soon as they retire or a little while after we retire, and they're voted in very easily because there's constant agreement by everyone. And then so other people, it may take a second or third ballot at a different time for them to be voted in. And maybe this might be the situation here with Warren Archibald, in that on this occasion, York and Latapia are going in. In 2008, De Leon and Steve David went in. Maybe on the next ballot, Archibald goes in.
But we don't have that system, though. Yeah, like you said, in the States, you retire, and 5 years after you retire, you're eligible for the Hall of Fame. We don't have anything like that. So you can, here, if you retire tomorrow, you're probably eligible right away. It depends on if somebody nominates you. And if nobody ever nominates you, you would never get in the Hall of Fame, which is...
And they have to nominate you from, somebody has to be from the Hall of Fame to nominate you.
No, anybody.
Anybody could nominate
could
you.
submit your name as a nominee to be enshrined into the Hall of Fame.
Well, then maybe we need to do something on Facebook and stuff
so
like that.
the structure has to be different.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
So we would have to talk about a structure for nomination.
I think because what they do, and they do it all over in all the different sporting prizes, because even here, for example, when the media does sporting photo of the year, journalist of the year, it comes out in papers and it's a random person in the public could nominate, right? It's the organization themselves. They don't want to have to do with anything in terms of the selection. So if I never nominate a photo from Harry, despite Harry having 35 years plus, career in photography, he may never get an award because no one nominated him. And I think to an extent, there are people that you can't nominate, but then there are also people that I think should automatically go into a pool, because let's be fair, if Warren Archibald's name is never nominated, but yet we have people all over the world speaking his name, we need to, it takes one person to put him forward. I think it doesn't have to come from the First Citizen members, but I think there should be something that if you set a particular record, automatically you're,
of course,
available for nomination. I don't think it needs to come from just a random person. It's like being in the military. You reach 45, you don't reach a particular rank, then you're out. I think they should have something like, okay, you play over 30 games for the national team, you had over 20 goals, you automatically go down in Hall of Fame once you retire. Yeah. Or you had some sort of impact where the media was talking about you for a period of time, over a period of games or whatever the case is, you go up for nomination. I think it should have something as a plan B in case the first option with no nominations happen. If no one nominates, for example, I just said, didn't nominate Hazley Crawford, so then he never goes down, yet he was our first Olympic gold. So then why? It should have something else.
Exactly.
And that's, you brought up a point. Is Hazley a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Now,
So
on this occasion, as I was mentioning previous, there are people who are nominated because of combination sports.
right.
I think Richard Neves is going to get in because he played both football and hockey for Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay,
now, he
fair
may
enough.
not have played football at a level that Warren Archibald played for Trinidad and Tobago, but he played both sports for Trinidad and Tobago, and he was a quality player.
But he gets
Right.
nominated as what?
He gets nominated, I think, as both.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
But I
though?
think what happens, it's a sports hall of fame. So they
Yeah.
will just put his name and they'll put football/hockey. So it's not, it only has to be
Right.
football or whatever. I think it's allowed once it's an athlete you go in.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you happen to play 3 sports, by all means. Right?
So it's just a Hall of Fame. It's not a football Hall of
It's a
Fame.
sports
Yeah,
hall
it's a
of fame.
sports
It's a
Hall of
sports
Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
So
and-
maybe we need to make a football Hall of Fame.
Good point. Maybe that's what they need to do.
That's
But
what we
then,
need to do.
in the case of with Dwight York and Russell, if we have to go with the criteria that maybe they had something else, could we say that Mr. Latapi was the national team coach or Dwight York as well? So they played a part in the administrative or management side, and Warren didn't. So that is what gave him the nudge in this instance, because maybe when other people were nominated, the other persons didn't have that to compare.
No, it's not a competition in how many
No, I know.
footballers. No, no, no.
I'm just saying what.
No, if you qualify, you qualify.
Exactly. And then I think whether you play 3 sports or you play 2 sports, it doesn't even matter, because the way Archibald played his sport is phenomenal. So you can play 5 sports and do ever reach the peak or do ever have the effect that he had in his sport.
Let's take a break at this point. When we come back, we will talk about what we think the structure should be in nomination for the Hall of Fame. We'll be right back after the show.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
I need to ask them to come out and support us in this venture, this First Citizens Cup on the weekend. Saturday we at Point Fortin, as I said, doubleheader from 4 and 6:30. And then Sunday we are at the Hazy Crawford as well for a doubleheader there as well, starting at 4 again. So this is exciting times. The league is now kicking into full gear, and we have the semi-final the following week and the final of the First Citizens Cup the week after, the end of October. So we are looking forward to a successful season, and we ask people to continue to support local talent and to build this football industry that we call the TT Pro League.
Welcome back, viewers. You're tuned into Axe Television Network, and this is Field of Dreams. And before the break, we were talking about Warren Archibald and not being selected in the Hall of Fame, and how, and the way the structure is. We're not sure what kind of structure we have. So let's help them panel on a structure. What you guys think should be a way that would be fair to every sports personality to get selected into our Hall of Fame?
As we said before, I think one way is the masses. Once you have an effect or had an effect on the masses of people, for example, what Dwight York did in 2006, what Latapi did when he came on. I think what Archibald did, what Leroy DeLeon did. I think once you make a stir in the country, once the country, you have a football game, everybody coming to see this player play or this or that player, I think that should be one of the criteria involved. Once your name was made that buzz, that should be one of the criteria to choose a player.
So,
I think I'll support that. Why I'm saying that, because also in the States, for the NFL, not only the Hall of Fame, but even for the selection to get drafted, the public has a part to play in that. It may not be 50%, but it's, let's say, like 30%. And once you reach on that list where everybody's talking about you, then, well, after the universities nominate who they think their player is, the public also has a say. Because only recently I was learning that it's not only down to just the university and the judges, but the public, the person that made that sort of buzz. So he may end up being the first round draft pick and still not being the best player, because there was also some points that were given based on the stir that the impact he had on the country or the university or whatever. So I think if we do that as probably option A is the guy that made us stir. So we already know, okay, Dwight York and Russell Latapy, everybody speaks about them. And then from there now, we go into more in-depth details about how many games, how many goals, this, that, the other, where the panel or whoever is selected to do it come in. But I think number one for me, the first thing would be maybe the public having at least 30% of the say, or, give it 30% of the points comes from the public domain.
One of the things I think should be done is that each individual sporting organization should have every year, prior to this selection process, they should nominate 5 people that they feel are a short list of people who should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Right.
All of them may not be selected by the eventual Sports Hall of Fame selectees, but the Trinidad and Tobago, in our case, Football Association,
Right.
there's no reason why they can't have a subcommittee that selects 5 players who are past players of Trinidad and Tobago, or even if you want to say 3 every year, who you put forward their names as possible Hall of Fame inductees.
And you're saying that there shouldn't have to be a nominee. It should be the TTFA submitting 3 players or 5 players. I think that's a good idea too. And then let us vote them. But Narada is saying, give the public 30%. If it's 100 points, 30 points
must be public.
comes from the public vote.
I agree.
So which
From
is
the
another
association.
great idea.
And then from the association, and then from your personal achievement, because a player must be able to perform and he must be able to assist. For example, a goal scorer. Yes, you're scoring goals, but so that's one goal scoring is one part of the team, one part of the point, but how you play with your other teammates as well, you assist. So what the effect you have on a game as a good player must play a part in that as well.
And I understand why you're saying goal scoring, because you're a goal scorer. But what about the defenders who don't score goals?
No, but
You
you would assume, this is not always true, but one would assume that a football association can select a committee that knows how to select
players, exactly.
players.
Yeah,
They should be able to have a small committee that can select players and go by various criteria that are universal in nature.
And I also think in a situation like that, you could do something like what the Olympic Committee does, where they usually have, like, for example, the president, the previous president, in something like that, you do something like the media communications manager or whatever, and maybe a past one or a past 2, because what you want is different eras. Because who may have been the media guy today who could give you all the stories about the present generation for the last 10 years may not have had access, although you may have your archive. So why not invite some other person that was in the TTFA years ago, that was the media guy, so he could give his take on a particular era. You have a former president, because he dealt with an era of players that you may not have dealt with as well. And you could form a committee very easy. It doesn't have to only be with who is there now, but you get about 4 persons now, and bring in 4 who were in that position some years back and put it together. It's like the Olympic Committee, they have their honorary president. So he's there on some decisions, and they also have Mr. Romani, who was there at some functions as well, because they need to keep that sort of presence from the eras before, because they would have a better first-hand knowledge of, what these players really did and their achievements.
I totally understand. And but First Citizen has to adapt a better selection.
But they're
criteria
also the
principle.
last entity. They're the ones that come in the end to vote. I think the names who reach to them should come, as you were saying. We can't only blame them for their last straw, because they have persons that are very qualified, and they know who they're picking in the end. But I think our association also has to back very strongly certain names. I think if the tennis or football or whoever, if you have your committee and you send in 3 names, you should be sending in 3 of the top names, not taken away from who they send up now, but I think it should have probably been, let me just say, if it boils down to 3, I think it should have been Dwight York, Warren Archibald, and let's say Russell. I don't see if the other names may have had that amount of impact. If it reached the First Citizens, it's different, but coming from the association, it should be of a certain standard as well.
Totally agree.
Don't
Totally
you
agree.
think, though, we should eliminate the nomination thing? It should have been, like Alvin said, the association should just submit every year to First Citizen from their little committee group
Right,
who they think.
right, fair enough.
Then
but
we
more-
have to submit.
That
because
is actually a nomination from
from
the association,
other
right.
people.
no, well, it's a nomination from the people who are in the sport, who should know about the players in detail. So, but it is considered still a nomination.
But it shouldn't be like I have to nominate a person, and if you never get nominated, you're not qualified for selection. That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
Well, that is why I think all sporting organizations should have their own Hall of Famer. Whether so Trinidad and Tobago Football Association should have, as you say, a committee, and they should have their names, who they consider, and whether they want to put them on a gold star or a silver star or whatever, however you want to have it done.
Right.
But whether it's tennis, whether it's football, whether it's cricket, every association should have their Hall of Fame. And then from their Hall of Fame, you could go across and say, okay, this is a Gold Star Hall of Famer, Warren Archibald is a Gold Star Hall of Famer. Then you could submit it to whatever association or whatever sports organization that need
Then maybe we could call the people who come from from each individual sport, then we could say these are the legends
Right.
of the game. These are the legends of each sport. Hall of Famers in the individual association, legends of Trinidad and Tobago.
So legends would go into like what First Citizen is doing is what you're saying. Football, you have your Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Basketball, you have your Hall of Famers.
Right.
And then the others, the overall, you
Yeah.
call that legends. Or
Legends.
something.
Yeah. When they get nominated into what First Citizen is doing, then they say, okay, the legend of
Legends
is that
of sport.
the legend of sports.
Yeah.
But every organization should have their Hall of Famers.
But it's hard to sit back as me to see Warren Archibald got rejected from everybody knows about Warren Archibald. I am talking people about the Warren Archibald. And in college is Warren Archibald, Leroy De Leon with Benedicts. That is the first two names come out, like in Fatima, Gally Cummins and Roger Dupre. And you know, and St. Mary's, well, I don't know Heather, but you guys' time is Ian Bain and Alvin Henderson, and you know. And when you hear these names,
Everybody knows.
But
everybody knows. It's a
Since
household.
then, has Warren Archibald returned to Trinidad on a scale that we, the public, should know him?
I don't even think that necessary.
No, because what I'm saying is that
The public-
I have never seen him personally.
But you heard of him.
I heard of him.
Okay.
But has he ever come back on a magnitude that we could sit down and say, hey, he is here for everyone to sort of acknowledge? Because everyone else, we know them being back, even if they had an impact away. So even if you say Leroy De Leon, Steve David, anyone, we've seen them. Heard they returned, caused a buzz, and, you know, people could say, okay, I've seen Dwight York, I've seen this one, that one, the other. I have, you know, did he ever come back
And
to that?
what you're saying there is totally right. Even when Warren Archibald was playing, he never liked to be in the public limelight.
Yeah, he's
He
not a problem.
never liked accolades.
Yeah.
People would come to him. He said, I want to be able to walk down the street without anybody, you know, coming around and interfering with me or whatever. But know the name. He wanted you to know his name. But Warren Archibald was quiet. He kept a lot sometimes to himself. And he was not one of those who would come back to Trinidad and
And
people
show up
would.
himself.
No,
Yeah.
he would not at all. If he came back to Trinidad, probably his immediate family and his good friends would know that he's here. Nobody else.
Yeah, he's right. But he comes few and far between, not on a regular basis like you think. Leroy didn't come back a lot either until
Good point.
recently.
Good point.
So
Good point.
so it's
It's not
It
that,
just,
yeah.
but at least everybody knows their name, and they know who they were, and I am very disappointed in that. So I think the whole structure should change, don't you guys?
Yeah.
And it should change for a better. And the First Citizen, if you guys are listening, please change the structure. Please look at the players you put into the Hall of Fame. You got 3 sitting on right here as well in the panel. Please do what you're supposed to do best. Get the right people in the Hall of Fame, because if I'm enshrined into the Hall of Fame, I want the best footballers or the best athletes to be among the selection.
Exactly.
So I can say I was with the best. I can't be with some athletes and the best is sitting outside and not part of it. Then it doesn't give me the
satisfaction.
tickle and the satisfaction of being into your Hall of Fame.
And I think
And I really
I
appreciate
think
you.
on the whole, Trinidadians, they take stuff too lightly. We don't really give Jack his jacket, as they say.
Right.
So a lot of the associations too, because when you hear about Jean Pierre and you hear Hissy Crawford, you hear all the big names in sport, you know, what does the country do? What does the association that they came from do? What does Trinidad and Tobago Football Association do for the players that did something for you in the past? We don't really respect the names and the quality players that we have. I remember Dr. Henderson giving me something when Pele played with
Pele played in a game, and I'll bring the story up now, briefly. Pele was playing in a game with Leroy De Leon, and many people had not seen Pele play in their lives, so they were rushing to play the game. They reached late, and for the first 10 minutes, Leroy De Leon was putting on a show, and everybody started jumping up, Pele, 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 and the announcer had to come on and say, ladies and gentlemen, no, Pele is on the other team, number 10. Leroy De Leon was putting on a dribbling show, and Steve, you know
Right.
what he can do sometimes when he's in his flair moments. And they had to tell people that Pele was on the other side. So we have had quality people as well, and as Leonson has said, we don't appreciate sometimes the quality that is within our own shores.
Right.
And many people out, so we have to wait till we go outside for people to say, hey, you all really have some players in Trinidad and Tobago. But we hear that from outside. We don't often hear it from in Trinidad and Tobago.
And that's what I'm saying, the associations of whichever sport you play, the association have to be the one to step up and say, okay, whatever name it is, Arnold Dworica, to us, Arnold Dworica is one of the most talented players. Forget if he went outside, if he didn't go outside, but he created a buzz. Jemot, they call him Hardis, and a lot of players, Lyndon Chubby Andrews, Silvio Span, Leroy Span. The association must be an association where they say, you know, for this year, 2016, we're going to make tickets. These players have a space in the stands. We're going to go out to them. We're going to celebrate them. We're going to show them that although you're a player that's gone, we haven't forgotten. We're going to put you in the Hall of Fame in the stadium. We're going to put your name on a star. We're going to really appreciate the talent that we have. But if no association does that, then the name comes and the name goes. Then whoever name comes up, Latipi, they talk about Latipi and York, that is gone. Then Molino comes up, then whoever comes up, and there's no respect. It's nothing to show that, hey, you can't even tell your kid that, come to the stadium, let me show you. You see that name there? That is in the Football Hall of Fame. And they have Alvin Corney was in the Football Hall of Fame for cricket and for football. So the association now, they must take charge, and they must, as Dr. Henderson said, we must appreciate what we have, and we don't do that often enough.
I think more so in football, and I think that is what we have in a challenge with. I think with the problem with it is that because the Football Association has been under a lot of pressure, whether it be from players, administrators, whatever, over years, you find a lot of things, there are conflicts. So I am sitting down here listening to what he's saying and wondering, how does the player that everyone considers one of the best players ever not be pushed by the Football Association, and it doesn't have to be this regime, I mean just in general, as that person. Pelé could walk, I live in Brazil, Pelé could walk into CBF anytime he wants. Don't care who, whether they like him or they don't like him, every president, vice president who sits there knows he can come and do whatever he wants. If Warren Archibald is that good, then how doesn't he have that same privilege? He is supposed to be the person that, if I walk into the association's office, I should have seen a picture of him somewhere. If I walk into any football ground or stadium that the association has some sort of control, his name should be there.
He should be able to walk into a stadium as well.
So I am agreeing with you with that. It should be that the association over the years should have already had this guy already put down as he is one of the best. He's in the top 100, top 5, whatever you want to class him as, because that should be our name for reference. Track and field will go and they will say Hazley Crawford automatically because we've seen his photo there. He's won this, he's won that. Swimming, we may see George Bovell because, well, he's reached the highest level. So again, we see a stadium with his name, whatever the case is. How come no football ground is named Warren Archibald Football Stadium or ground if he was that good?
But that's how we are. But you go to Haiti, every household, they know who Archibald is. And they would have a picture of Archibald, and they name the kids after Archibald and all that kind of stuff. You guys know that. So why? Why Haiti can do it and we can't do it? That's just
so that's what I'm saying.
nature,
It has to be something else that happened that contributed to that not happening. Because I don't see why, if Dwight York has a stadium, yes, he did carry us to the World Cup, but Latipi has a school. I don't remember Warren Archibald. I don't know. It may be. But I haven't seen a ground or some sort of institution
Steve,
with his name.
The picture, the big photos up coming into Point Forte.
Right.
He's up on one of those. Huh?
Yeah, he
Right.
He's had some recognition. Who are the 5 people? Who are the people up there? Who are in the big photos coming into Point Forte?
Warren Archibald,
One Archibald,
Leroy Dillion,
Dillion,
Doyle Griffith, Victor Ogaro, who is basketball, and myself.
Everybody else is in the Hall of Fame.
Every one of those is in the Hall of Fame. All
Everyone else.
Yeah, other than Warren
It just
Archibald.
tells you something. It tells you that, well, First Citizens, we've made an error, and we'll get him in.
I think
We'll get him in at some point in time.
I think they need to accept they made an error in this one,
Yeah.
and they need to correct that. We're going to go for a break. When we come back, we will talk about some players who have made it and some players who have not made it and who we think should be in it or whatever. But let's think about that and let's talk to the viewers with that. We'll be right back.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
We ask them to come out and support us in this venture, this First Citizens Cup on the weekend. Saturday we at Point Fortin, as I said, doubleheader from 4 and 6:30. And then Sunday we are at the Hazley Crawford as well for a doubleheader there as well, starting at 4 again. So this is exciting times. The league is now kicking into full gear, and we have the semi-final the following week and the final of the First Citizens Cup the week after, the end of October. So we are looking forward to a successful season, and we ask people to continue to support local talent and to build this football industry that we call TT Pro League.
Okay, viewers, welcome back. Again, you're on Axe Television Network, and this is Field of Dreams. I want you viewers to go to our Facebook page and make some comments on what you hear today about Warren Archibald not being selected on the First Citizens Hall of Fame. And what we're going to discuss now, guys, is let's talk about players who are on, players who are not there, or we think, or personally, who we think should be, or who we think. Don't say who is there and should be off. We're not going to go there, but we'll say who we think should be, right? So let's talk. I heard you talk about some good names there.
Yeah, well, of course, I will be more knowledgeable on the players who played around my time. And I cannot say which player that I think is a Hall of Famer or not. Or I can say if I'm a legendary player or not. But what I could say is that there's a lot of players who may not be Hall of Fame, but is very talented players. We have to get the criteria until how we can judge who are Hall of Fame players and who are really talented players. Because if I have to nominate somebody to be
How about your Hall of Fame players? How about if you had a Hall of Fame?
If I had a Hall of Fame, my Hall of Fame.
What are the players you going to put in?
Players I'm going to put in, number one is going to be like Renald Carrington. I don't know if you know that name.
Of course I know that. Oh, you mean a hippo?
He's hippo, exactly. He's going to be my number one player in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be Renald Carrington. Definitely Russell Atterpey, Dwight York. I like Arnold Dworica as well.
I'm giving you 5, and then I'll go to somebody else.
You giving me 5? I like Silvio Span as well.
Right, what about yourself? You didn't put yourself there yet. And
Well, it's my Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's your Hall of Fame. You take 5. We'll come back at you again for another 5.
Another 5.
Yeah.
My 5 will be Michael Maurice.
Oh, that was one of my 5. that should be one of my 5.
You can't have them all.
I can have them all.
Yeah.
Michael Maurice, I would say Leroy Span.
You Span?
Ron Lafferty. And I'm saying because I'm sticking to the players from on about my era. So the others would be perhaps a little lower down. David Nakid.
St. Mary's again. St. Mary's people is that.
I didn't know much about Nakid.
Let's call him.
No, I wouldn't call Dexter Skeen, but David Nakid because of where how he played and where he played, and the level that he played at, and perhaps last but not least, Dwight York and was there in already. So I would say Arnold Dworica would be the person.
You call guys who is not there, who you think should be there?
Yes.
I guess it's tougher for me because there was a time we did some of the top midfielders, defenders, and I had to do my research on who I sat down and spoke with. Now, I know some of these guys may be in, and I didn't want to touch on any of the guys that you all did because I believe I'm on the same page. But, and this is, if he's there, by all means, but I had a lot of sessions years ago with Selvis Figaro. And I'm just talking based on people that had impacts on me and that I heard the name so much that they have to be there. And if they're not there, they should be. I will have to say Selvis Figaro. I will go with Arnold Dworica because I remember growing up, I started in W Connection at 12, 13, somewhere there. And I remember going games even before that. And that is the player, I think, since him, we've not had a player more recently that had that impact, where you would go and all you will talk about the next day in school is what he did, the damage that he did. You know, we have the celebrity players who reach far, they reach far, but he was one that you were just expecting more all the time. So I'll go with Selvis Figaro, Arnold Dworica. I will have to go with Leroy DeLeon. Well, he's there, so,
he's there already. Yeah.
You know, I'll have to go with Leonson Lewis. Right? Not because he's here, but what he doesn't know is that I looked up to him and I sat down here with you and I told you the striker who I represent, Willis Plaza, is...
You've talked a lot about him.
He's Leonson Lewis in print, right?
Yes.
Based on, and that's the games I saw to know what our football was. So I'll have to go with... So let me go with Selvis Figaro, Leonson Lewis for now. The others would be players that I played with, and I played with the Molino and these guys who in the future I believe they
We'll
would
call them.
reach there. If I could add two more that I played with that, you know, I will have to say Kevin Molino was a player we feared in Trinity. When you played Mokorapo, you were just expecting that much damage to come from him. And I believe once he continues on the path that he's going right now, he is
Oh,
a
yeah,
player
definitely.
to do a lot of damage in the future. So I'll go with, I will stay with 3. That would be
Alvin,
my
you
three.
didn't call yourself. Oh, how come?
I don't think, I honestly don't think that I am Hall of Fame material because my career was cut short by my academic pursuits. Yes, I was on the national team at a very early age. And yes, I was outstanding in college. And yes, I had a checkered career in my first 2 years in the NASL.
Right, exactly.
But it was cut short. It ended not slowly, but it ended abruptly because I went my medical school pursuits. And I think when you're a Hall of Fame type person, you must have talent as well as longevity at the top.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying that a Warren Archibald, who played 9 years in the NASL equivalent, MLS equivalent in the NASL, that's longevity as a professional.
Yeah.
Many people don't play that long as a professional.
Right.
9 years is a long time that people still want you.
What about players who play
Good, I
locally, never went outside, like Lawrence Rondon? You guys haven't heard of Lawrence Rondon, but
No.
you know.
I know Lawrence Rondon.
And
Lawrence,
players like that.
Lawrence Rondon, again, Lawrence Rondon in school was a terror. Difficult to pass. And better known as Fred. We used to call him Fred because his big head reminded us of Fred Flintstone. And Fred was outstanding in his first few years as a national player. But did he make the 74 team?
He was with us.
And after that?
I don't know. I was outside after that. I
So
took part after that.
longevity is
And then Russell T-Shirt.
Russell played with me in school. And in fact, I was partly responsible for getting him into St. Mary's because I thought that he was an outstanding player when I first saw him play for St. James Secondary. But Russell played perhaps for Trinidad and Tobago longer than most people. He played more than 12 years for Trinidad and Tobago. But he was never considered somebody
Top
who
flight.
would top flight to go outside to
Right.
be wanted as a professional.
Right.
He was in the era when when people were being taken from Trinidad to go outside. Now it may be personal why he never went, but he never went.
Yeah, I
Leo,
think-
you have some more guys. I know.
I know
can
I
see
have-
it. Yeah. Give us a couple more.
I can't give it too much because only when I reach home, then I remember I didn't
Yeah,
call this
oh,
name and I
yeah,
didn't call
yeah.
that name. But, you know,
But
I
there's
think
a
I
lot
played
of
in
people.
there's a lot of people. I think I played in an era where, you know, it had fabulous players. I mean, even from under 19 level, when I played with a fellow called Russell Sutton. I played with Dexter Sandy. I saw Sean Ligier.
Those are household names?
Those are, well, at that time they were. Andrew Ali was a goalkeeper.
Beyond college, right?
Beyond, yeah, well, the thing is, the fellows who played at that level went on to
Right.
play on national teams.
Okay.
You know, I think Michael Maurice, as he said to me, is not only not only one of the best goalkeepers ever, but I think the personality of the players, the personality of Michael Maurice and Bernard Carrington is just totally outstanding. You know, so we had a lot of talented players that probably didn't reach as we think that they might play professional, but we had a lot of talented players.
But Maurice, didn't he
there.
play in Costa
Yeah,
Rica?
Maurice played in
Yeah,
Costa
he
Rica.
went outside for a little
Went
while.
out-
I will tell you another story. Saprissa was down here recently for the CONCACAF, and their equipment guy was the goalkeeping coach was a goalkeeper when he played there. The first thing he did when he landed here is he asked me for Maurice's number. That is the impact again in Costa Rica that he has, where the guys came across wanting to know, could we just speak to him for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think-
And, you know,
I think Clayton Morris too, as a player that I played with as a younger player. I played against Clayton Morris. I played against Stuart Charles Favre. He and Garnet Craig was two stoppers. I mean, it had so much players in our time that were considered great players. that even when you consider the players that are coming up now, I think Atula Guerra is a player of second to none.
Class, yeah.
Atula, real class Atula Guerra, Kevin Molino, we talk about Plaza. You know, we have a lot, we have a really good national team. Now we have a really good talented coming up now. So I think
Yeah.
Trinidad has always been blessed to have so much great players.
Like Alvin said, longevity has its place in this.
Stern
and
John
I
has to
agree.
be one of
Has to be, yeah.
the primary people.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went, he was excellent. His college career in Trinidad and Tobago was, well, lukewarm.
Yeah.
Better than average, but not
Yes.
top of the line.
not explosive.
But everywhere else, when he went first to junior college in the States, then to the MLS, and then over when he went to England, every club he went with in England, he was a...
And the other thing you have to think about is with technology today, it's the name that people see. So
Yeah.
when I have persons from South America that I'm dealing with, when they come to play in Trinidad, they go online and they may look at something and they come with information about somebody like Stern John and they're telling me, we want to meet this guy because he is who is our legend. Yeah,
And
you know.
that's
So
it, and,
those are some of the things that you have to take into consideration. If I have 10 people coming and all 10 asking about Stern John, how
But
could
that's
he
the-
not be?
But that's the bad thing about playing in the era of Steve David and them.
And
They
it
don't-
is,
They
it
don't
is.
have a tape of Steve David or Leroy DeLeon or the magic that they showed. So the players now have a real advantage over
They do.
the older
They
players
do.
because of how easily it is to tape something and to come and see and Google something.
And this is why you have to do these things now, because 10 years from now, it's even going to be harder. I still have the opportunity where I'm meeting people from Haiti who's still talking about Warren Archibald. 10, 15 years from now,
It's going to be gone.
it's going to be
gonna
tougher.
Molino.
You know, and then how are we going to induct him then
Right.
if we don't have anything to feed
Sure.
on?
Yeah.
That is that's why we have to get them out of the way quickly, you know, get the public to know about them because their history would be embedded in our culture
Yeah,
forever.
but as we talk about this, and we're talking about great players and whatnot, we, as older people in the game, and especially in the football game, we really need to continue to educate as we are doing now. We need to educate young footballers in the heroes of the past.
Exactly.
Trinidad forgets their heroes too easily. And in the Caribbean, you mentioned Haiti. I've been to Cuba about 5 times. Cuba documents everything. Everything. Their heroes are well known. The Juantorinas and whatnot of the world. Soon as you do something spectacular in sport, you are lauded in Cuba and you're remembered for eternity. Because soon as a young person is old enough to be able to read, write, listen, they're telling them about their sporting heroes. And it's all documented. We in Trinidad, part of the Caribbean, it's not documented, or it's documented by 1 or 2. Recently, a few years ago, I remember John Allen had a whole series of information and was trying to write a book about football in Trinidad and Tobago. He died before it was completed. I don't think nobody took that task on. And we need to get documentation both at the TNTFA level and in schools so that we will get to keep our heroes in the minds of the kids that are coming up in Trinidad and Tobago.
I totally agree with what you say. We got 3 minutes. You got any?
No, just to reiterate what Doc said, I'm thinking it was said perfectly. You know, we really don't keep our heroes close, and we should.
Right. You anything in
No,
closing?
I have always said it on the program
Uh-huh.
to make it known. Once we do not know who our heroes are, the younger generation, they're going to miss something and they have nothing to live up to. So these young guys, when we fault them for not doing well in football or whatever, it's because they have to look outside and they believe that that is unattainable because it's a different mindset, it's a different environment, and they don't see that the same struggle they're passing through, guys did it before them and were able to reach outside and have this big impact. How many know that Leonson was in Portugal, Gali was in Mexico, Steve David and all these guys were doing this in the States? So then it shows that our players can also go to Mexico, Portugal, and the States. This is easier now.
Okay, you heard him, viewers, and to the First Citizen, you guys made a mistake. You made a big, big mistake. We're talking Warren Archibald. So I think you guys should go back and look at what you did and correct it. The Trinidad Football Association, Trinidad and Tobago Football Association, please do something to nominate the right guys. And it shouldn't come from individual nomination. It should be from you. Please do that. At this point, I want to thank Axe Television Network for giving us the opportunity to bring this show to you, our viewers. Thank you, viewers, for letting us into your homes. We really appreciate you. To my panel, guys, I appreciate you guys so much. Alvin, thank you for being here. Leonson, you know I'm a big supporter of yours. Thank you so much. And Narada, I thank you so much for coming and supporting the show. Viewers, thank you for supporting the show again. We really appreciate you. Also, I want you viewers to go on Facebook, check out our page, make a comment on why is Warren Archibald not on this Hall of Fame, why he's not selected or enshrined into the Hall of Fame. Or if you don't do it on Facebook, do it at our email address, fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. My name is Steve David. The show is ended now. Go in peace. I'll see you next time. Good night.